Views and opinions expressed are not necessarily those of the staff or management of the Flavors of Northwest Arkansas podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Flavors of Northwest Arkansas podcast. I'm John Engelman. Appreciate you being here. If this is your first time listening to the podcast or you missed last week, we're now also on video. Just look up Flavors of Northwest Arkansas on YouTube or find the link in our Facebook or Instagram. This week we head to Crystal Bridges, where we talk to Chef Tim Ordway, whose official title is Associate Director of Culinary Operations at Crystal Bridges the Momentary. But before we get to Tim, food news. A very popular Fayetteville food truck is expanding into a brick and mortar spot as Akira Ramen and Bowl will be adding a location. It's at the former Eureka Pizza on Mission next to Fayetteville Beer Works. According to owner Andreas Tan, their menu will be different from their food truck.
In the food truck, we sell ramen and also rice dishes. And here we're gonna serve hibachi things, but it's not like the show. We just serve the express type of things. Yeah, we have hibachi chicken and beef and etc. etc. And also we do have the sushi.
They'll have dining and drive-through at the Mission location, and they're targeting a late April, early May grand opening. On Monday, the Stonebreaker Hotel restaurant in Fayetteville started their all-day service. They open at 7:30 a.m. and close after dinner service at 9 p.m. They've been serving dinner since October the 30th. We had a very popular podcast with their chef, Tyler Rogers, and it was on January 15th. And if you haven't heard it, Tyler's great and very candid. Now, some not-so-great news. Goldie's Grill at NWAC closed at the end of January. The owners are from the same family that owns Susie Q's and Rogers, which was destroyed by the tornado last year. According to the NWAC Eagle View newspaper, the owners said that they're getting out of the business. Also sad news that Medina's Tri-Tip Company in Lowell has closed. They have a lengthy statement on their Facebook and Instagram pages, as well as the door of their former establishment. The issues had to do with business permits and strains with Lowell city officials. We had a great interview with them on October the 2nd. Check that one out. Chef Tim Ordway started his culinary career like so many as a teenager working in fast food, Chik-Fil-A actually, and knew early on that he wanted to work in food. But it wasn't just for the food aspect. Chef Tim will explain. He credits his college education at Johnson & Wales for giving him a big head start in the culinary industry where he moved up quickly. He became a sous chef in his early 20s at a restaurant where he met his wife. Chef Tim tells us why they moved from Charlotte to Northwest Arkansas. And there are many folks out there wondering why Crystal Bridges has a chef. Well, they have several, and he'll tell you what all they're responsible for, and it's a big list that will continue to grow. We sit with Chef Tim Ordway. That's next, right here on the Flavors of Northwest Arkansas podcast.
Teachers are dynamic leaders, shaping a new generation. Innovating to prepare students for our fast-changing world. They're skilled experts, discovering a universe of solutions, telling stories, inspiring, mentoring, connecting cultures, leading by example. Teaching is a journey that shapes lives. Are you ready to begin? Explore teaching at teach.org.
And welcome back. We are at 11 at Crystal Bridges, and we are here to interview Executive Chef Tim Ordway. Tim, thanks for your time, bud.
Absolutely.
How are you?
I'm good. A little cold today, but I'm good.
It's a little chilly, but it's not as bad as it was in previous weeks.
Yeah, there's some positivity coming for sure.
Some positivity coming from, absolutely. So I'm going to start off with your background. Where are you originally from?
Yeah, I'm from Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Okay.
I was raised there, and that was awesome. There's a lot to learn in the area. Family was close, and
yeah,
that was good.
That's great. So, how old were you when you figured out I may want to cook for a living? I may want to get into food.
Well, my first job was at Chik-Fil-A, and I was a dining room attendant. I was like 14, 15, working like 15 hours a week, and all my friends were doing, baseball or whatever else.
Sure.
And I was just cleaning up the dining room, working Saturday mornings,
Banking.
And, yeah. Well, I mean,
At that age, 14, 15?
It felt like it. I remember getting my first paycheck and being like, well, this is a lot. And then,
This is great.
making one purchase. I'm like, this is less than I thought it was.
Especially nowadays, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, is that when you decided, okay, I'm going to do something in food the rest of the way?
Yeah, absolutely. Growing up in a family that had like a church focus and a community focus, we were, I was a servant. I was a servant from the start, and that was an opportunity to be public and be paid for my servanthood, and to, really feed back into what satisfied me as a human. And, learning through that was awesome. And 14, 15, 16, 17, I was there, learned everything you could do in the restaurant. I was a steward of my space, and really just an ambassador for people. And it was a blast to do it while eating some really tasty chicken.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Well, college rolls around, and you pretty much knew what you wanted to do and where you wanted to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I even had, the chef I was working with at the time. I had left Chik-Fil-A and I was opened a restaurant in downtown Fredericksburg.
Okay.
It's no longer open, but it was fun while I was there because I was young and I was working like this wild. Like, I'd go to work at 6 o'clock at night. I'd get off at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And then I'd still go to high school the next day.
Really?
Yeah, man. They'd go home, take a nap, finish senior year, come home about noon on, like, work release. That was interesting.
Perfect.
Sleep. But, at that point, he was like, stay, I'll teach you everything you need to know about cooking. I was like, man, you can't even keep your business open. And so I went ahead and made my way down to Charlotte, North Carolina. That was a blast. That was a great decision for me professionally.
So at Johnson & Wales, and they've got a good program there.
Absolutely, yeah. I was there for 4.5 years. I did the Associates in Culinary Arts and a Bachelor's of Science in Food Service Management and Beverage Operations.
Yeah.
So I make a little joke, that many people go to college to drink. I went to college to learn how to drink because we had the best time. Between cooking international food, learning all the basics, seeing a lot of people, cooking for distinguished visiting chefs was a blast. But some of my favorite memories are like the beverage classes. We're in a room where it's like the whole room is lined with bar wells.
Sure.
And, you're in a different uniform, and the instructor's standing in front of you, shouting out cocktails, and you're making these like colored water cocktails, and then you have like a tasting afterwards, and then everyone's thinking about alcohol. So where do you go? The bar right after.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, that was always a blast. Everything from brewing beer to wine knowledge to cocktails, like on top of all of the culinary knowledge. I felt like I was 3 steps ahead of everybody around me.
Well, and you're like, God, this is college.
Yeah.
This is a great way to do college.
Yep.
That's awesome. So when you, after 4.5 years, when you graduate, you stick around. I mean, why would you leave Charlotte? There's plenty,
Absolutely.
especially like you're probably half mile away. You pick up a job at Weston.
Yeah, well, actually, it was interesting. I had the job at the Weston through college. I was working through college the whole time. 40 plus hours at work, and then 40 hours or 35 hours of school. I mean, I didn't sleep. But I was young.
Yeah,
didn't need sleep then. But the Weston was interesting because I had to give up a job to start the job at the Weston.
Uh-oh.
I had to take an unpaid internship. And I did. It took all my time.
Yep.
And I told them, I said, I'm going to have a job here when I'm done with this. And they were like, well, if a job opens, you can have it. And I was like,
it'll happen.
It'll be there.
Yeah.
And, I was a little bold, but it did.
Well, sometimes you have to be.
Yeah.
You and I were talking beforehand. If you're going to be a good chef, I've never met a good chef that doesn't have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder at least.
Yeah, to me, I think there was a little past. It was past ego. It was I need to advocate for myself.
Sure.
It's like if I'm going to do this for my education requirements or for my furthering my career, it needs to further my career.
Yeah.
Not just be something I can talk to somebody about. And it's always been something to look back on because it got me. I learned everything. We did everything in the hotel. And about, a year and a half, 2 years after that, I went ahead and I started working at BLT Steak. My girlfriend got me the job. She's like, hey, we need some help. Chef wants to talk to you. Come on over. I was like, all right.
And this is what I wanted to ask you about because after a year and a half at Weston, you go to BLT, which, by the way, really, really nice place.
Oh, yeah, awesome.
And you're sous chef.
Yeah.
After a year and a half in the business.
Yeah.
How did you pull that off?
Well, I mean, I had that attitude. You
Yeah.
know, I'm going to learn everything I can. I'm going to do it the way it needs to be done, and I'm gonna work hard. And I was young, so I worked hard. I picked up every shift I could. My boss at one point had me doing this clopen shift, and I would close Saturday night. I would open brunch, run brunch for him, set up dinner, and then run dinner that night, and then
Clopen.
then I would open brunch on Sunday and do it, and then I'd sleep for like 2 days. But
Yeah, oh yeah.
that was awesome.
You were there 5 years.
Yeah, Yeah, he brought me in as a prep cook. I started really quick, learning everything, basically a saucier, making everything from the bottom up and setting up the team. Then we get to a spot where it was time to move up to chef de partie. So I was running lunch service. I was leading all the people around me, and that was my first step into management. And man, I was 22, 23.
Oh.
And everybody around me, like the youngest person I was working with was maybe 35.
Oh,
and
no.
most of them had 20 plus years in the industry. And they're like, well, you're my boss? Since
Oh, they
when?"
hated that, didn't they?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I've had instances where I had to either I got walked off the line or I had to stand my ground. We're going to do this together. I know it's going to be hard. I know you've done it this way for 6 years.
Yeah.
Changes today. I'm sorry. We're going to get through it together. It's going to hurt. Tomorrow it'll be better.
Huge learning experience.
Absolutely. And I learned so much. There's so many things that I always tell people that kitchens are like a pirate ship. I mean, everyone has the role. Everyone's a little, charismatic. Everyone's got their own, attitude, which could be said about a lot of workplaces, but it's allowed to shine in the kitchen. Kind of because you're away from the guests most of the time. But, you get everybody. You get, old military police, old doctors, and then you get the 20-year-old vet missing a thumb from some bad injections at some point in his life. And
Oof.
you're like, wow. It's a lot.
It is a diverse crew.
Absolutely.
It really is. Well, you were there 5 years. All of a sudden, Northwest Arkansas, from Charlotte, from the East Coast. Mm-hmm. Why Northwest Arkansas?
Well, the first reason, family. It's the reason for everything. It's the reason for my goals. So
you get family here?
Yeah. Well, my wife does.
I see.
So yeah. So when I was at BLT, I met her, and she motivated me to advocate for myself again. And I moved up through a couple places in Charlotte after BLT to kind of find a foothold, discover something new. There were some wonderful, dreamy promises about really awesome things that just did not come to fruition. And I worked through it. I crawled up the stairs some nights when I had to. It's hard when you work 18 hours a day, 6 days a week, and you're like, I still feel like I'm not giving enough. There's a lot of kitchens are a place where abuse is hid in a lot of ways, and it really spurred the time of it's time to look for something else.
Yeah.
So I applied for jobs in Charlotte too, and I applied just for entertainment. See what's happening in Northwest Arkansas, because when she told me she had this dream that she wants to come out here and be by family and raise family by family. That was important.
Interesting. But you had been out here before with her.
Maybe on a visit.
Okay, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, maybe maybe been out here twice before.
So it's not one of those things. Yeah, it's not one of those things where you're like, Northwest Arkansas. Why would I want to?
Well, we're getting there. When it comes to family, obviously, hands down, that's why we want to be here.
Of course.
Because I was imagining it as a place that was I'm going to come out here and I'm going to have to run an Olive Garden. And I was like, I worked really hard to just buy into Darden. I was like, it's not really what I want to do. But I want to support my wife. I want to support my family. And those are my goals. My goals were not to open a flashy restaurant.
Best husband ever.
Wow. Hey, I felt really good.
Yeah.
Well, so, the first place that responded was the Preacher's Son. So the Preacher's Son, I had applied at Crystal Bridges. No one's here to look at for that. But I applied at Crystal Bridges first, and then I applied at Preacher's Son. And I swear it was minutes. And I had a call from Rope Swing. And they're like, we want to get you on an interview. I'm like, okay, you do understand I am not local, right? They're like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
So we get on an interview. I'm interviewed with Matt Cooper, and then got the chef, another chef that was opening the Holler, and then the Preacher's Son. And they were basically, after the first interview, they're deciding do we go here? Does he go here? What does he want to do? Trying to seek it out through goals and match where I would be. And I was like, well, I want to work with Matt Cooper. I don't really want to do a burger restaurant. While I was working at BLT Steak in Charlotte, I was also running a burger restaurant in my my PMs. When I was working the morning shifts at night, I'd run a burger restaurant.
Brutal.
I mean, the hustle was there.
Yeah.
So, but I was like, I don't want to do that again. That wasn't all that fun. And they're like, okay. We can put you at the Preacher's Son. So they moved me out here. I moved out here, lived at my wife's parents' house. She wasn't out here yet. She still had to sell our house and everything. Mm-hmm. And it was about a month and a half before she made it out there, which was, I thought it'd be longer. And I was just cooking with Chef Cooper. I loved his food. I loved his mentality. I loved the restaurant at the Preacher's Son at the time. I met Chef London Daniel. He's one of the best people in the world. He was another sous chef there at the time, and he transitioned over to the Holler to open.
So at this point, was this when you thought, okay, this is good.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy. I was happy.
Professionally,
I was professionally happy to be in. I was happy too. We were making life goals too, man.
Understood. And that part's a given because you knew that coming forward. But going there professionally, you're like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. And I was surprised by Northwest Arkansas, good. And the family that I had interacted with, her family, they were from the area, but they're from like South Fayetteville, and they didn't really travel up to Bentonville. They didn't really know what was up here. I think I went to Bentonville before most of them went to Bentonville for the first time, and they've lived here their whole life.
Crazy.
So I kind of filled in that sous chef spot, and I was really ambitious. I was bold. I was excited. I had a lot of those standards from Charlotte that, I just come off of, like I had mentioned, a restaurant that was like overworking me. That was one of those that was working towards really high accolades. I mean, the restaurant in the last few years just got named like top 100 by Forbes, and Forbes I don't know if it was hotel restaurants or just on Forbes list. And I was like, yeah, I felt that when I was there. I wish there would have been a little bit more staff, but
sure,
it was wild. Yeah. And so I had come off of all of this like aggression in the kitchen and this passion. We get passionate people in one place. A lot of times there's friction if we're not all focused in the same direction.
Sure.
And there was a lot of passion that I had because I want everything to be great, beautiful. I want everything to be delicious. I want our guests to have a great time.
Sure.
And I kind of felt a little friction in the kitchen while I was there because I think, Matt Cooper is an amazing chef, and I think he just wanted. It was his restaurant.
Sure.
And my passion and ambition, my boisterousness in the kitchen made it feel like maybe I was encroaching. I don't know.
Well, I understand.
But either way, I found a level, and I realized that, okay, it's not quite the same here. And I clicked onto that. And, man, it's been the same since. I tell people nowadays, I'll tell them stories from when I was, abused or, begrudged in the kitchen. And,
sure.
And then I just stop and I'll tell them, I went through that so you don't have to. Because it doesn't happen. Great. It doesn't happen in my kitchens.
That's great.
I've got several of them. So,
yeah, that's great.
So it's one of those things that, the learning moment, the click of it that it can be different.
Yeah,
was massive. Right about that time, they Rope Swing, told Matt. I came in one day. I was on a vacation, right?
Sure.
I had this vacation that we were gonna go do. So I come back and from vacation, and he kind of catches me. He's not normally there when I'm there in the morning. I would come in and kind of put the produce away and get everything together. Sure. And he'd staged himself there. And when I got in, he's like, "Hey man, come here." Pulls me in the walk-in and goes, "Say, they're going to tell you something. They're going to ask you a question and you're going to say yes." And I'm like, "What if I don't want to say yes?" He's like, "You're going to say yes." And I looked at him, I said, "I don't want to do burgers, man." And he goes, "Just say yes, because they won't ask again." And I was like, "I'll talk to my wife," because that's first.
Sure.
Every one of them is, I'll talk to my wife. Mm-hmm. So most of the time I'm already weighing the positives, weighing the negatives, preparing ourselves for what we're going to go through. But so I go home, talk to my wife, and, I was like, they're going to talk to me. I don't know what they're going to talk about. But so we sit down, and they offer me the executive chef job for the Holler. The chef previously had a change of heart, to say the least. Oof. And so we had, at the time I was offered, we had 24 days until open. When I accepted, we had 21 days, and we had no menu.
Oh no!
We had a full kitchen. It was decked out. It wasn't designed the way I wanted it to. Whatever. We got through it. But we had staff. We had a wide variety of staff. We had cooks from local good restaurants and cooks from corporate burger restaurants and stuff. So we had bodies. And opening a restaurant takes bodies. So we figured it out.
Yes.
21 days to open it. We had a blast opening it, and it had a hot run. But one of the things I told the Director of Operations, we did the interview, was and this place, if anyone around here has been to the Holler before it had its run, and it, it passed away, man, it took 300-500 people a day to keep that thing moving because it was so massive. Yeah. And the amount of people it took to staff it, and, it was fun. Because it was hyping, it was moving. We had parties there, we had concerts there. I think Kingfish came and played one time, and that was a blast.
Yeah.
It was just, it's this really wide, social gathering place. It had, shuffleboard in the middle of it, the coffee bar, the bar, everything. It was something for everybody.
It was a pretty innovative place for the area.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was fun. I got to be creative. Burgers are a blank template, and you can do just about anything. So
sure.
We had, wings and all kinds of fun stuff on the menu. And dude, I had just the Then we hit. I just remember talking with my wife about how I was so proud of myself. I was so excited about the opportunity.
Yeah.
Excited enough that I wanted to give more. Right.
Sure.
I was like, okay, when we come back from this weekend, I'm going to talk with somebody and we're going to focus on really digging in, what's next, what's the next 3 to 5 years look like, how do we commit to this, how can I commit to the company. I felt so valued between the benefits and things I had received.
That's amazing.
Which is such an interesting story that maybe not everybody else hears about the Rope Swing Group company, but for me, I felt value. I felt important to the place.
That's great.
And that was fabulous. And then the next day we come in was like, oh, it's COVID. Oh, it's here. Okay. All right, so we go through this wonderful, fun opportunity where it's this is where the problem solving kind of came in. They're like, all right, well, we've got a big staff, and if we're going to be paying them, because I did appreciate that. The Rope Swing paid all of the employees through a portion of the pandemic that they.
Sure, that's great.
And this was in the initial spot where they thought that, okay, we got 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of isolate for 2 weeks. It's 3 weeks now. Oh, okay. Now we're moving on. I could go on for days. But when we get to that point where it's we're being paid to do something, all right, if we're paying them, they need to be doing something, anything. So we all did deep clean scrubbing tasks, and then we go to this point where we're like, all right, well, Tim, the hauler team's going to work with Brightwater. And between the hauler, Brightwater, and using press room kitchen sometimes, depending on what was available, we would be making meals to go to the front line, is what they were calling it. So frontline workers, so the hospital workers and stuff like that.
Very cool.
So we were making between 300 to 800 meals a day.
Amazing.
And we were taking them and delivering them to the hospitals.
So great.
It would be a different hospital, kind of on cycle.
Sure.
And that was just me and a team would show up in the morning. We're like, all right, here's a menu, rock it out, and we make some make meals, take them over. It was fun, and then.
Well, that's fulfilling too.
Yeah, we had, and then after that feeling, and that continued my feeling of I want to give back. I want to support this. I want to dig in, right?
Sure, yeah.
My goals were starting to, I was starting to have professional goals. I never had professional goals.
Oh, wow.
My goals have always been to take care of my family with the skills that I gather and hopefully have fun doing it.
Yeah.
So I was starting to gain professional goals. So I was like, I could work all the way up. I could stay here. I could do all the restaurants. I could work up to AGM. I don't want to be, CEO. I'm not yet. But I was like, but I was willing to commit and learn and grow, and the people around me were awesome. And I was like, okay, next time I get a chance, I'm going to talk to somebody about this. Like I said, I hadn't got to talk to anybody about it yet.
Sure.
And I get an email. I was like, all right, come on, we're going to talk about the future of the hauler. And I was like, okay, menu planning and stuff. Cool. We're going to talk about what happens next. I was excited for the meeting, and I walk in. And then I walk in, and there's 3 people in the boardroom, and I'm like, I don't know any of y'all.
Oh, boy.
And we look over, and like, I recognize that paper.
Oh.
And, yeah. So I was the first. I was the first one laid off for, at the COVID situation. It was May 4th. I remember that. The Star Wars marathon was on. My wife and daughter were at home. And up until this point, I'd felt nothing but love. I had advocated for myself, and they had made a parental leave policy.
That's great.
So when we had my daughter Evelyn, I was able to stay home and support my wife and go through all of that together, and that was priceless.
Sure.
I was like, anybody that's going to do that for me, because that was unheard of in the hospitality industry. It was I remember hearing stories from my old chefs, and they'd say, "Yeah, I took a week off," and then chef in the background would be like, "You took a week? I was back the next day," and just man, that is not what.
No.
It's not what I'm about. And they might have great families. For me, I was like, it starts on day one. And it was really important for me to advocate for myself and for my family that way. And they did. So here's me coming off of this mountain of gratitude. And I'm just like, I know some of the other cooks in here, if they receive this letter, they'd just be like, all right, I'm going to go get paid. I'll get paid the unemployment and just sit on my couch. And I remember it was the first day I didn't call my wife on the way home from work. I call her on the way home from work every day.
Sure.
So she knew when I got home. She knew.
Oh, wow.
Which is interesting because I see her as such a pessimist. She calls herself a realist, but she was so calm.
Yeah.
And helpful. It was amazing.
That is amazing. And you got to sit down for a Star Wars marathon.
Yeah, we got to watch some more of it. That was great. But, for me, I wasn't comfortable with just taking the unemployment that was happening. I mean, I was making the same amount of money, just sitting on my couch, not doing anything, taking care of my family.
Right.
I was like, okay, well,
Did you feel the clock ticking?
I did.
Yeah.
I did because, it was every week. Every week it gets extended, or every other week it'd be like, oh, it might change. I don't know. So I'm actively applying for jobs.
Sure.
I consider taking jobs I would never take, interviewing at places out of desperation. And,
Sure.
I remember I had 3 finally lined up, and I was like, these are cool. These are good jobs. These are actually progress jobs. And the same day, I got an email and a call from all of them, and they were like, sorry, we're going to go in a different direction. I was so defeated. I remember coming home and not even taking off my sunglasses and just sitting on the couch.
That's tough.
And my phone rings. I'm like, huh. Okay, who's it? Why is he calling me? It was my U.S. Foods rep that I had when I was at the Holler. And his name's Scott Bullock. He's an absolute just mania. He's a mania, man.
He's great.
I love him.
Dude.
He just called me yesterday. I'm so glad I heard from him. But he called me. He said, hey, buddy, how you doing? Hey, I got something for you. And I was like, what's up, man? He's like, you need to go to the River Grill. You need to walk in there, and you need to tell them that you're going to be the next executive chef at the River Grill. I was like, hey, man, I don't really feel like comfortable just kicking out the door and saying, hey, it's me. But can I do it differently? He said, nah, don't call. Just go. I was like, Scott, I'm going to call. I'm going to call. He's all right, buddy, whatever. But you get down there. I'd never even heard of this place yet. And, so I call, and, Brenda picks up, and Brenda Swango is such an amazing woman. She's one of the best people. I say that several times, but I've been lucky since I moved to Northwest Arkansas. I've met some of the best people.
Absolutely. And by the way, we interviewed her last week, and
awesome.
She had some very great things. For people that didn't listen or watch, she had some very, very good things to say about you.
Well, it sounds like you're gonna have to go back and check it out and see what they said. I'm gonna have to go look. So there's a guaranteed view. There's a view right there, right there. So so I called her and I was like, Brenda. She's like, yes. I was like, this is Tim Ordway. I just wanted to talk to you. Do you have a moment that I can stop by and explain to you, or kind of talk to you? And she's like, well, what's going on? I was like, yeah, I just like to meet with you and tell you, talk to you about how I think I'm going to be your next executive chef. And she's like, how do you know this job is open? And I was like, well, someone called me, and I think it would be great for you and me if we spent some time together. So I did. I came in, and she met with me. But an hour or 2 hours later, we chatted. I got an offer from Brenda the same day or next day. I don't remember. And I went in and was like, okay, ready. I'm ready. I'd love to, say maybe we get through the weekend and I'll be there starting Monday. So I got in Monday, and, I didn't know how many people were there. I didn't know how many cooks, how large the team was. I didn't know anybody at the team. I didn't find out that I did know somebody. My sous chef at the time, I met her when she walked in, and Lisa Stewart was there. She worked in Rope Swing and a few other roast locations around. She's a great advocate in Fayetteville for a lot of things, but she's a wonderful person, and she definitely got me through it a lot. Like, oh, we're gonna get you up to speed. These are the people we have, and it was like me, her, and one other guy. I'm like, okay.
That's the team.
That's the team. Here's the menu. I see the menu, or I see this line. I'm like, that's pretty big for 3 people.
Yeah.
And, we had this wonderful front of house manager too, Greg Cockrum. He's still around. He's done so much. He got like Fred's Hickory Inn and a few other things before. But he liked to cook. He'd get itchy whenever we'd be around and we'd be struggling. It's like, chef, how can I help? It's like, you cook meat? And he was like, yeah, I cook meat. I was like, you just run this for a minute, please. Just don't let it burn. Yeah. And then after that, I was like, nah, this guy's a badass. He's going to help me every chance I get.
Love it,
man. So we got through. We started out with just, what do we do? Mm-hmm. They had like a lunch menu, dinner menu, and they're like, okay, well, here's the menu. And I was like, hey, can we just focus on one service for now? We're gonna be stretched as it is. Let's focus on doing one thing and doing it well. So we focused on dinner service, and really started with here's the menu that exists, trying to figure out. And these old restaurants, there's a lot of standards and expectations that they have, and some of them, more old school may have a little less of the reporting of this is the exact recipe, this is the exact way we do things. So we learned together is what we did, and it was great because Brenda had been there from the beginning, so she knew everything. She knows food. There's a lot of either restaurant owners or managers or whatnot that don't know food all that well. She knows food, so she was able to communicate and teach me while I was cooking, and it was a really active chef role. I was, I don't think I spent a day at the River Grill that I wasn't cooking and expoing and plating, working a station and covering it. It wasn't like I'm standing on the outside of the line, which is, a really like leader drive the boat, kind of position.
Sure.
I was in a position where I was like, well, I got to drive the boat, I got to stop it from sinking, and we got to navigate everything. So, and it was a blast. Like it was hard because, man, it was long days. We'd show up whenever we needed to, and get it done. And whether we were butchering in house or prepping up for a big weekend, we started with just the dinner menu, and occasionally we would do these take home menus where we'd like make a take home menu, and they would order like a meal for like 4 or 6, and it was a great idea.
This was a part of COVID, right?
This was a part of COVID in order to still serve people and allow them to have their space, and with minimal interaction, we drop it off in the car or the trunk however they were comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. Because this is one of those like small town, small restaurant things that doesn't happen for like corporate restaurants, is because basically the regulars there kept them afloat. Yeah, they really did.
It's a neighborhood place.
Yeah, everything that they could. Yeah. There were some people that just, really, I don't know if there were donations made, but man, there were some purchases made to like, okay, well, I'll have Brenda do it. Like, yeah, absolutely, you will. We'll make it happen. And we did stuff that was outside of our normal, but really just tried to, once we got past that, like, this is awkward, we don't know if we can have people in a booth near another booth, people are in a restaurant measuring between the tables, making sure everything's safe, masks on at some time.
The social distancing part.
Yeah, it was wild because the best part is like the River Grill has these wonderful booths, these old classic booths.
Beautiful.
And we put up these like dividers between the booth.
Right.
Because the physical barrier should have meant that they could fit more people.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was good. But once we got through that and we kind of reestablished moving forward, and like every week or every month, it's like, when can we do lunch? When can we do lunch? I was like, Brenda, in order to do lunch, we're going to end up being dragged so far out, or we're going to have to hire 2 or 3 more people. And I was like, well, okay, let's just focus on absolutely smashing dinner. And we did. We just, every time we could, we started these, we did like an introduction of like the new chef dinner, which was a lot of fun, just like a happy hour, meet me and a few bites and stuff. Then after that, I was like, I really liked talking to people. Yeah. So we were like, let's do like beer dinners or wine dinners or something. And we started to do these like 3-4 course dinners where we'd bring in like a brewery, and, we would do a tasting beforehand and write the menu. And that's something that like, I love. There's a few things where it's like I'm pretty humble, but like that thing, like I'm good at it. Like the pairings and finding notes, whether it's wine, liquor, or whatever we're doing. It's something that somehow I really excel at. And
that's great.
And it's fun. So we bring them in, and
that is something I do not excel at.
Well, I mean,
but I didn't go to Johnson & Wales, and I don't have a culinary degree or anything.
Well, yeah, I said, I went to college and I basically learned how to drink. So instead of just vodka Red Bulls, we were drinking Manhattans and Rob Roys and all kinds of other stuff.
That's great.
We were pairing and learning.
So I didn't mean to pull you off point. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Yeah. It's good to touch back into things.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, but man, that was a blast. Like we would sell out these events, and they'd fill up the dining room. And at first, it's like, okay, well, dinner service can still happen in the bar. I'm like, okay, we're gonna do our best to still serve the bar. Right. We did, and we did this really cool event that she'd done before, dining in the dark. And
we talked about that.
Yes, and I was so confused because I overthought it. I was overthinking it myself. I was like,
I can see that, having not experienced it before, right?
Yeah, well, you gotta, as a chef, you want someone to have a great experience. Yeah. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. And you're blindfolded. But the thing is, you're not blindfolded at your table. You're blindfolded in the parking lot. So you're blindfolded in the parking lot, and then your server, everyone lines up, kindergarten style, hand on your shoulder, and we're going to walk you to your seats. And he basically puts you in your seat, gives you your hand, and goes, here's your wine glass, here's your water glass, here's your fork, here's your knife. This is where your plate will be.
That's it. That's
Yep. And each course comes around, and you're blindfolded the whole time. You're just talking, and
she had to walk me through taking customers to the bathroom.
Yeah. Even luckily enough, it was away from the dining room, so they had to all right, ma'am, will you get it from the table, and they'll walk you where you can take your blindfold off when you get to the bathroom. Obviously, I'm not going to go in there and help you.
I had to press her on that part. You could take your blindfold off once you got into the bathroom.
Yep, absolutely. So they were, and then the server would server or hostess would stand outside the bathroom, are you ready to return to your table? Please put your blindfold back on. And just it was like a whole experience.
Yeah.
But thinking about the menu and how people eat through that, I had to think about things like, everything on the plate has to be edible. So no bones, no weird things. You have to be able to probably pick it up with your hands because no one's slicing anything. It's already got to be portioned or easy fork or spoon or whatever, preferably spoon because
really technical.
Yeah, and it was a blast. I mean, I ended up doing some things on purpose. I love the surprise menus because then I can give people things that they would never order. And then at the end, they're like, oh, I never would have ordered it. And I'm like, well, did you love it? And they're like, I did love it. And I was like, well, now you can say you had it and you loved it. And it's really bold, giving people like beef tartare or like tongue or heart or something that they're like really not like prepared for. Like, I don't recognize this texture.
Yeah.
And when you're blindfolded, everything's so much stronger.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those were a lot of moments for that, finding really strong flavors and simple applications.
Sure.
But one of the best things we did we did two things that I loved in that. And one of our first dinners there was, I made a kumquat sorbet. So like candied kumquats, pureed it, make a sorbet. So it's kind of tart, kind of, citrusy and whatnot. And then I put unflavored Pop Rocks on it and served it in a little spoon. So they're like, everyone...
You are the devil.
Everyone receives it.
You suck.
I purposely was like, okay, I'm going to go, if you were at this event, you may or may not know, but I was probably standing right next to you. So I went out into the dining room to listen. And because everyone's like, oh, here's your intermezzo. And I'm like, okay. So they get it. And then you can hear it. And from one end of the dining room, it was in like the private dining room, and the back dining room.
Just
it was full,
a crescendo.
And in the bar, and you can hear just all the way through the whole restaurant.
You suck.
And then right after that, you get a wave of giggles. Everyone's just, oh my god,
that's awesome,
I got
man.
a Pop Rocks, and then
That's great.
Then you get these nostalgia things.
So smart.
Going. Oh, it was so fun because the kumquat sorbet kind of tastes like Flintstones push pops. So everybody's like blindfolded and like, what is going on? I'm in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
This is wild.
That's great.
But it was so fun to like, those are moments where it kind of clicked. I'm like, I'm curating experiences. I'm not just serving food.
Yeah.
And that was where like, there was a lot of excitement about what was coming next for me, regardless of where I was. And I think I still had a few months left at the River Grill before this point. And, I mean, it was a blast.
Well, and that's a natural segue into how did you find out about Crystal Bridges?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was looking for the next thing. I was looking for pay. I needed to take care of my family.
Sure.
The River Grill was a wonderful place. I learned so much, but unfortunately, I was making less than I was when I was working at the Holler, and I needed to get back to that. My daughter was like, a year and a half at this point.
Okay.
And we wanted to have more kids, and I think we were even considering. I think we were on the verge of I think we might have been at the time. I think we might have been pregnant or right around.
Okay.
Or had just come off of something, but we were. I mean, life is full of ups and downs.
Sure.
So we were kind of in a little bit of a valley there, and we definitely were looking for something that what's going to support me. How can I advocate for myself? Because it wasn't, as I could have stayed at the River Grill and had fun.
Yeah.
But I needed to be taken care of, and so I went and I applied at some other jobs, and I saw that the chef de cuisine job at Crystal Bridges had come up, and we were still over here, kind of like it had only been a year. I spent a year at the River Grill. Okay. So it was like COVID, still a year, and it still affected a lot of things. And one of the biggest things it affected was events. So Crystal Bridges had removed like a lot of their staff, or people had left or whatnot. So there was an opportunity, and I had come in and as the chef de cuisine over here and at Crystal Bridges, and my goal was to run the event center. So we've got a few places over here where there's events, and at the time when I got in, it wasn't anything to do. I didn't have a team. I was here in just the kitchen by myself. I was like, all right, so this is the events kitchen. Great. Where's the event staff? Come to find out, they were running 11 restaurant the whole time because they were the only ones who stayed through COVID. And I was like, oh, that's my team. Okay, cool. So they'll come over here at some point. Yes. Oh, yeah, at some point. So that there was just some wiggle room of how do we make all the operations run at whatever level.
Sure.
Attendance was low. We weren't doing a lot of events, and then within the first 3 or 4 months, we started building up to like.
So this is like 20, 21, 22 in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd events at that time looked like a wedding tasting on like a Wednesday, and then a wedding on a Saturday, or something along those lines. That was really it. I was like, okay, 2 events a week, no problem. Sure. We come in and do it. We still have our days off, and then eventually it started building up. I'm like, oh, this is a lot. And then, then an opportunity came up where, the chef that was here in the past came back from parental leave, and then decided that he needed to do the same, advocate for himself, and find what he needed, find his next step, and he did. And when he did, they came to me and they're like, interim executive chef. I think you'd be the right person for it. I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. You don't know me all that well, but they were committed, man. The team that was here,
that's great.
The culinary director at the time was really, man, he was my biggest fan, and,
awesome.
And the COO was right there with me. So, and we brought up from there, and it was like, okay, let's do it. All right, cool. So we're doing this. That was our first Fresh Grass Festival. Was right after.
Oh
that.
Yeah.
So the first Fresh Grass Festival, we had no idea. We were just like, all right, we're gonna do it. Here's our menus. And that was at the time. It kind of shifted a little bit. I was a chef de cuisine, managing with the Great Hall, the event center over here, or events in Crystal Bridges. Mm-hmm. At that time, I started having to take responsibility of the Momentary as well. Crystal Bridges and the Momentary are under the same umbrella.
Sure.
So it's something that we'd share staff for. So that was, all right, well, let's do this. Now I'm over the restaurant. Mm-hmm. I'm over events. We didn't have a CDC yet for events, so I was doing
CDC
as chef de cuisine.
Okay.
So I was kind of doing both for a bit in this interim role and running the Momentary, and it was absolutely wild.
Yeah.
We eventually found everything went well. For the most part, I haven't failed yet. So I was really proud of myself.
That's a plus.
Figuring it out. There's a lot of long days, and that's okay. Long days happen.
Sure.
But eventually we get the right people in place. We start doing some interviews around, and I needed to be backfilled by someone who was going to be a really responsible individual that could be independent, and so that way I could focus on the rest of the operations around picking the restaurant back up and everything else. So we find Jonathan Sari. Jonathan Sari was he was a sous chef at Blake Street, and he worked around in quite a few other places at Press Room from West Memphis, and the dude such a unique personality, and he knows what he wants to cook.
Yeah.
And he let me know. He's like, I heard you were looking for someone to add some Southern flair to it. I was like, yeah, absolutely I am, because for me, I am from Virginia. I spent 10 years in North Carolina. I know how to do do Southern food.
Sure.
I do it well, but I tell you what, if anybody ever gets to eat his food, no one does it better. I don't care. You can have stories and myths of anybody else. He's the best Southern cook I've ever seen in my entire life.
Nice.
I'd put money on it, and I'm
nice.
so. But he came in, and I always tell people Crystal Bridges is different than a restaurant. In a restaurant, about 3 weeks, you start to have your footing. About a month and a half in, you know how to run a restaurant. You know what your role is in your place. Crystal Bridges, you have to go through a year onboarding.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, because you have to be probably the most organized person on earth to be in the position you're in, because you've got 11, you've got the Momentary, you've got dinner events at both, like the chef's table.
Yeah.
All other events, dinners, the 11 dinners, the Frank Lloyd Wright House dinner party. And then you yourself, outside of that, squeezed in a dinner over at Conifer, a chef's table over there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a massive operation, and there's so much going on. And I tell people when they come in, I was like, it's something new every day. I'm never bored.
Yeah.
And right now we're on top of all those things you're talking about. We're working on expansion, the museum. I don't know if you're expanding. I think it's expanding by 100% square feet or something. It's a lot. So, a lot of people we can add, new outlets we can add. Looking at adding a suite destination over there, in the expanded area. And after that, we're also moving towards servicing the whole Health Institute and Alice Walton School of Medicine in some way. That's all under our umbrella. So the job just gets bigger, and hopefully it'll flatten out a little bit. But at the same time, I don't want to get bored. This is blast.
I don't think you're going to have to worry about that.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about being the most organized person in the world, and somehow I've been able to do this thing, and it's helped me in the line. It helped me when I'm cooking, that I can kind of compartmentalize and chop things up and just put them around and just.
You have to.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's definitely not organized on paper, but it gets done.
And you've got a couple things coming up in February alone.
Yeah. Just in February alone, we've got our Black History Month WOW with Nate Walls, and that's going to be talking about the theme of that one is Black Joy. But Nate Walls is the owner operator of Secondhand Smoke. Does a lot of really awesome things around with barbecue. So we're going to have him on stage. Speaking of that, our WOW program is one of my most favorite things. It's culinary programming. So
yeah, WOW is for Wednesday Over Water.
Yeah, Wednesdays Over Water. So just a little bit about that experience is it could be a community partner, a regional maker, or, something, we've had RG Making in Carson, who used to be an apple distillery who had the property right here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, it was a big full circle connection.
Sure.
But a lot of times, most of the time, we walk with a curator. We are a museum, by the way. So
there's that.
We walk through with the curator an exhibit, whether it's a temporary exhibit or exhibit that exists, or find art inspiration in something, and then we curate a 4-course experience based on that, telling a story that has either culinary connections, emotional connections, historical connections, whatever it needs to do. And we put one of our chefs on stage with, Jason Sewell from, everywhere.
Sure.
And then we talk about the night.
Yeah.
It's always a great experience, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But other than that, coming up, we've got dinners for Valentine's. So that'll be the 13th, 14th, and 15th, the week there of Valentine's. You can find the reservations online at crystalbridges.org. There's a few seatings. Check out the menu. The menu should be posted soon, if not already. But that's going to be in 11. When I started here, they were asking for dinner back. They wanted dinner back.
Nice.
Like, well, that's great. Let's see some foot traffic. Okay.
Yeah.
So and this was a way for us to have dinner. Mm-hmm. We know who's coming, so we're ready for you.
Smart.
Yeah.
It's really smart.
So,
But before we jump to break, I got to hear about the World Championships, the World Food Championships.
Yeah, the World Food Championships.
That you were a...
it was a technical term, master judge.
That's right. You guys were judges. You, Matt Cooper at Conifer, and Trey Basora at Barclita and Big Lieutenant. You guys pretty much judged the whole thing. Yeah,
that was actually my second year with them. So they had reached out at one point, the World Food Championship, Mike McLeod from the World Food Championship, and Mark Conway. They're really great people. Mark Conway is a special dude. He's got a lot of awesome interests, and he's great at telling everybody about it. But really connected to food and the food community, and it was an interesting thing to see. I did a little competing when I was in high school, but this is different. Yeah. They reached out to me, and they're like, okay, well, we're coming to the area. Who do you want to talk to? Who do you want to talk to in the area? The first year we had Chef Rafael Rios, and he came with us, and he was a master judge with me. And then the second year we had Matt Cooper and Chef London Daniel from Conifer, and then Trey Basor was there. But the first, they asked me, like, what do you want to do? What do you think we should do? We normally do kind of like a farmer's market basket or whatnot, and then they do this really interesting challenge. It's normally the second challenge, because they have competitions all over the world, and then the winners from those competitions go to regionals or invitationals, and then the winner of their category, seafood, burger, barbecue, whatever, bacon, whatever their category is, the winners are the ones that come to the final table.
Sure.
And the final table is what we were judging. So they had gone through a year of competition to get to that point. So it was, in theory, the top 10, the best of the best. And they do this challenge called, was it?
And you guys came up with the challenges, right?
Yeah, we did. We did. There was, some conversation back and forth between Mark Conway, Mike McLeod, and I. I mean, I don't want to take credit for it, but they definitely, they had some bones, and we helped fill it in.
Good.
One of them is called Eat and Repeat, I think. So they would go after their first initial elimination, they would go to dinner that night at Trey Basor's at Barclita, and he'd make them a meal. And the next day, they would be responsible for giving a basket with maybe some extra ingredients, create the dish that you ate last night.
Yeah.
So they get one chance to, taste
great.
it, look at it, talk about it. He'll tell them whatever he wants to tell them or not. And they have to absorb the information and then recreate it. And I think it's taste and recreate. But it was amazing to see how close so many of them got.
It's crazy.
Because we'd show up that morning, and at Brightwater, it was at Brightwater, we showed up, and Trey Basor was already in the kitchen. He was like, this is what it should look like. This is what it should taste like. I'm not going to, accept these things. These things, I can understand if they can talk about it.
Sure.
So a lot of it's a storytelling. Storytelling is important, I think, in this kind of stuff. And
you bet.
It was a blast. But we, it was interesting. I want to highlight it because he's such a cool dude. But the winner of the first year I was there, not this last year, was John McFadden. He's an Australian mate. He's so awesome. But he came in, and he didn't know it was a team competition. He came in by himself. And he went through all 3 rounds, and he was in the top, all 3 rounds, and ended up being, the winner of the first year. And it was amazing. It was I've never seen somebody sweat and hustle so hard. And he was like, I committed to do it. I'm doing it.
Good for him. Yeah. That's cool.
No, that was awesome. He was like World Seafood champion, and then into being World Food Champion.
That's great.
That was a blast, though.
Yeah. Are you ready to talk some food?
Yeah. We can talk food.
Okay, we'll talk food. We got that, the Mike Engelman Home Pro Tip of the Week, and that's next, coming up right here on the Flavors of Northwest Arkansas.
Connect with us at Flavors of Northwest Arkansas on Facebook and Instagram, or by email at flavorsofnwa@gmail.com.
And welcome back. It is time for the Mike Engelman Home Pro Tip of the Week, and for that, we get a tip for the kiddos from Chef Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about like something that you could cook or whatnot for, a home tip or a home cooking tip or whatnot. But for me, I think home is about the family. And for me, one of my love languages, or the literal love language there is through serving and giving actions, and that translates to food directly.
You bet.
For me, when it comes to these growing a family, it involves the kids heavily. They're in the kitchen cooking with me. They're trying things. They're playing around. They're asking to help. They sometimes ask me to cook stuff. My daughter, she's 5.5 now, but she likes to cook soup on her own.
Oh wow!
So one of those things are like, okay, well, you can just chop up all these vegetables, put whatever you want in it, and I promise you, I'll puree it and season it, and it generally always tastes pretty good. It's kind of wild, but my tip is just kids are picky eaters.
Sure.
Kids love things that are consistent, but be persistent. Get them to try it. My kids eat what we eat. We don't make kids food at home. They can have some, kids meal or something when we go out, but at home they eat what we eat. And sometimes there's that pushback. We had a wonderful opportunity where brother-in-law brought back a bunch of tuna. He'd gone on deep sea fishing. And
wow!
And they're like, oh, I don't want that. I was like, you're gonna try it, just one bite.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you're gonna eat it.
My mom was a one-bite person too. You gotta do one bite.
Yeah. You can't say, I mean, even for you adults out there, you can't say you don't like something if you haven't tried it.
Amen.
You can't. So I treat the kids the same way. Get them to try it. One bite of that poke bowl, and they're asking for seconds and thirds, and they are slamming raw tuna, and they are eating all this wonderful, wonderful food. And they end up getting more nutrient-rich diets and more varied palates. And then by the end of by the time they're teenagers or adults,
That's
you're
great.
going to have more fun eating and cooking with them. You're raising a whole experienced child. And I mean, it's a big goal, but man, try the food. That's my tips. Try everything. There's no reason, unless you're going to, unless there's some allergy or something. But other than that, try it. Man.
Great tip. We'll be right back.
Your story doesn't have to end. As an organ donor, the good in you can live on. In fact, you can save up to 8 lives through organ donation. Sign up to give the gift of life after you're gone. You'll be happy you did. Just maybe, someone else will too. Sign up online today as an organ, eye, and tissue donor at organdonor.gov. It saves lives.
We are taping this episode on January 28th. Yesterday, I celebrated my 3-year kidneyversary. On January 27th, 2022, I had a 2-hour surgery that absolutely and completely changed my life. The only thing I know about it is the kidney came from someone under the age of 21. Clearly not a good thing on their side. Probably very tragic. I'm also very thankful, though, that they were registered. You can also get registered. It's at organdonor.gov. Get signed up there. You can also get signed up through the health app on your iPhone, or you can go old school, the way I did it. Go to the DMV, get signed up there, or Department of Finance here in Arkansas. Get signed up. It makes all the difference. When you have your untimely demise, you'll be able to help other people live on. Thanks so much, and very, very much for that. And we're back at Crystal Bridges, Executive Chef Tim Ordway. Tim, you ready to get into food?
Yeah, let's talk about food.
Let's dive in. First off, you have so many events and so many different things you're taking care of.
Oh, yeah.
You got to have constant text chains with your distributors and farmers.
Yeah, we're real close. Anybody that we need anything from is right in the pocket.
Yeah.
And they know. They know that we there's a lot of money that comes through here. There's a lot of food that goes through
Sure.
here. So, I mean, everybody's ready to help as much as they can, and, you know, especially when it's committing to a good experience.
Sure. How would you describe your food here?
Well,
like very high level.
Very high level. So at high level, I would say I use the phrase transient Southern.
Okay.
So to me, that is it's a representation of starting in the basics of Southern cooking.
Yeah.
But it's a representation of what was here, who was here, and also who's left, and the impact they've had on the cuisine and the culinary around. A lot of when I started, you know, I was told that, you know, we're focusing on high South cuisine. I was like, okay, high South. And I asked the people around me and the people leading me, and they couldn't describe it.
Yeah.
They couldn't describe high South to me. And I was like, okay, I'm not
They use
from,
that phrase a lot, though.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not from here. I am, you know, I'm not like an Ozark native. I was like, but I tell you what, like, my Southern food's different than your Southern food. And, you know, this has kind of given me this whole, like, mindset of, like, Crystal Bridges being an international hub of influence and culture, and, you know, recognized as like a place where everyone's welcome.
Sure.
You know, they preach accessibility and, you know, advocacy here. And for me, that looks like diversity on a menu. You know, I want anybody to be able to walk up to a menu and just see it and like, oh, there's something on there for me. There may be more than one thing on there for you, maybe two. And you know what? The best part is they're all going to be good.
Yeah.
I don't want to put up just, you know, something simple and, in all honesty, lame just because it matches the dietary description. Like, we're gonna do it well, and we're gonna serve all the people we can.
We're going to dive into the lunch menu starting off. Like I said before, I'm a big shrimp and grits devotee. I make my own at home. I got it off of obviously a recipe starting off. But, you know, when you cook something over time, you kind of make it your own.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do a little more of this.
You know what you like.
A little more garlic and tomato paste in mine, which, you know, some people probably wouldn't like, but I dig it, man.
I mean, I tell you, Chef John in our CDC over our events, he makes a shrimp and grits with an andouille gravy, and it'll punch you right in the face. It's so good. You know, so yeah, we definitely have it. But on our menu right now, we went something even more like local. I can't really get shrimp here. Like, we do have shrimp on the menu, but for our first like signature dish under my you know, something we wanted to make those evergreen that should be here for at least until I'm gone. Yeah. Is that pork and grits. So
yum.
So we've got this this braised pork shoulder. It's braised with apple juice, black pepper, garlic, and bay leaves, and then the next day, you know, we take the apple juice, which becomes apple jus at that point, and we, you know, reduce it down and make sure it's, you know, sweet and salty and porky and you know, all of it. And we serve with these like coarse Delta grind grits that are really creamy. So you get the braised pork over it with the apple jus kind of glazing it. We grill some apples, make a grilled apple chutney. And there's some like salted walnuts and some chives all over it. And man, it hits like between the textures of the walnuts, the salt, the, you know, the like light crisp that's left in the apple after they're grilled and cooked. Like, it is a comfort dish. And I tell you what, like, I love comfort food. I mean, if you're watching the video version, you can tell I love comfort food. Yeah. So, but,
same. I'm kind of, you know.
But man, it hits really well.
Yeah.
And there's the people that like it, they love it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to have something like that on there.
Yeah. And you know, obviously, when seasons change, so do menus.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, when our approach is, you know, seasonal, we do a quarterly menu change in 11 restaurant for both our lunch and our bar and bites menu. And that looks like, you know, Chef Nadia Bentley. She's our chef de cuisine over the outlets, and she runs 11 restaurant for us. And she's, you know, amazing. I've told her before, you know, she's kind of got this like humble, I'm not sure I'm that great yet. She's a Brightwater graduate, but you know, I looked at her recently and was like, you know, you stand out, right? She's like, I was like, no, not just here. You stand out.
Yeah.
You're good. You're great at this. So she's done a great job. If you've had the food here, you know. You know, so
I've talked, and I don't mean to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but I've talked to so many people that back in the day, the people they learned under, and you talked about it kind of a little bit too.
Yeah.
They didn't get the attaboy from their bosses back in the day. It was just basically verbal abuse, and this is before HR. This is before HR was in, you know, restaurants or anything like that.
Even if it was still either verbal abuse or sexual abuse, and somehow it's supposed to be, here you go, good job.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I started in restaurants in the late '80s. All that stuff was there.
Yeah.
All that stuff was there.
I can imagine.
Yeah. But so yeah, to your point of letting her know that you know, she is that person.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she stands out. Her food stands out, and she's really got it down to think how I think about food, think all the way through.
That's great.
Think about the experience, the textures. But, you know, we do seasonal menu changes. We also have and our evenings at 11. It's like a tasting menu that's reservation only. We do, limited seatings on it. We control how many are there, so we know what we can handle.
Sure.
But from a guest perspective, it's a curated experience. It changes every,
It's 5 course, right?
Yeah, it's 5 courses.
Yeah.
It's about $100, 100 plus, and it ends up being like 5 to 6 times a year. We'll change the menu,
Awesome.
and that's like the creative outlet for her and her team. They get to really do whatever they want. I don't really veto things. My only request is like, can I get this somewhere else? Yes, then let's put something else on there. I want it to be a truly unique experience. We are a unique place. I don't think, there's more concrete here than there is probably on the roads up here, but we definitely like stand out, and our food should.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. And it absolutely does from everything I've seen. I've got to get back to the bars and bites, though. Tell me about that chicken skewer.
Oh, the chicken skewer it's a new thing on the menu. Chef
Is it really?
Yeah, Chef Nadia, and then we just flipped the menu somewhere recently. It's been pretty popular.
I would say.
Yeah.
I would say that it would be. It looks amazing. You were talking about the menu changes there. I want to talk about what it is that you guys have coming up and where they can find things.
Oh yeah, like I had mentioned previously in the podcast interview here, that crystalbridges.org is the place to find all of our information. We've got a culinary calendar on there. You can find all of our events. You can see our WOW schedule coming up. We've got, since Crystal Bridges the Momentary are under the same umbrella, we also have tastemakers. So tastemakers are going to be this year like kind of interesting pop events that could be anything from like a big barbecue pop-up to a small class of some kind. But
nice.
What we're also excited is the new programming this year is the supper club. So at the Momentary, we just did our first supper club a few weeks ago with Chef Tyler Scott Rogers at Stonebreaker.
Yes.
Man, good guy. That was such good food. Like if you haven't been to the Stonebreaker, go to the Stonebreaker. Yeah. Tell him I sent you or not, whatever. Just go and enjoy it. But it was a blast.
He's great.
The experience of the supper club's like 45 people at a king's table, and it's all family style. So you get put in this awkward situation as a guest. You're like, I don't know, you, and you.
The best.
We're going to do it.
The best.
It becomes communal. It becomes one of those moments where you're just like, this is kind of like, cookouts at home or.
Why is that guy hogging all the mashed potatoes?
Yeah, for me, me growing up, like we would have 30, 40 people in the house sometimes.
Wow.
We didn't go out for holidays. We didn't go out for Easter or anything. We cooked at home.
Yeah.
So that was one of those, like, it's kind of a touchback to it. But throughout the year, we'll have one a month, and it'll be different chefs. This next month, I think on the 19th, is Chef Lisa Stewart, our sous chef, runs the Momentary. She came with me from the River Grill.
Oh, nice.
You may have heard me say that name a little earlier. But yeah, so when the opportunity presented itself, I'm going to take the people that took care of me, supported me, and helped me be responsible and stewards of our place and bring them with me, and she did that. So she's here with us at the Momentary. She works hard with us, and she'll be doing the next supper club at the Momentary. So yeah, there's a lot of fun things going on. You find me in December. I'll do mine in December though. But
excellent. And by the way, and I want to kind of hone in on this before we jump out. You're not able to do all of this without a big cast of superheroes supporting you.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. It's interesting because when I meet people out in Fayetteville or Bentonville, or even, Bentonville less, in Fayetteville, and, they ask me what I do, or they introduce themselves, tell me what they do first. Yeah. And then I tell them what I do, and they're, oh, wow, that's awesome. Where do you work? I'm like, well, I work at Crystal Bridges. They're like, what? Why? They have a restaurant. They have do they have food there? I'm like, dude, you have no idea.
No.
It's like, if you don't know, you got to get up there. But I couldn't do it without the team, and everyone, believes that there's like, you have skill in yourself, and I do. I'm good. I'm a great cook, and I'm a great chef, but they are the ones doing all the cooking and the working right now. We're working on just kind of growing and moving up. I couldn't be focusing on expanding, operating something over here.
I was about to say.
Creating a new, at Whole Health, we're going to be, have an event center over there and the micro markets and stuff. So I'm creating this new regime over there, and I couldn't be doing this if I didn't have a team behind me, and they know it. I let them know it as much as I could. I'm very appreciative, and I'm very vocally appreciative. So.
Well, and I'm very appreciative to you for your time this morning, man.
Absolutely. It's been a blast.
Yeah, it's been great.
If you haven't caught it, I can talk a while. So
That's all good. Those are the ones we like.
Absolutely.
Those are the ones we like.
Good content.
Appreciate your time. You can find Favors of Northwest Arkansas on Facebook and Instagram, and please tip your servers. We'll see you next week. Have a great week. Bye-bye.